What an unbelievable race. It started so slow and then things went wild. But before we get into that, my name is Pia.
My name is Milan.
Thank you for joining us here at RacePlazaMedia at the Daily Racing Show. So play the intro.
Okay, so Red Bull Ring race of this year.
Yes.
I will say, so we got up at 6 a.m. or 5:30 to live stream or do a live hangout party
Yes.
for the race.
Yes, the second race of the triple header. We had Spain last weekend.
Barcelona.
We had the Red Bull Ring, Austria this weekend. And then next weekend, we're going to be in Silverstone. So it's going to be another interesting race. But yeah, we're in the middle of this triple header. Going into it, I think we both were a little bit nervous that it was not going to be the most interesting race potentially.
So at first I was like, okay, let's live stream it or do a live hangout because last week's race was really, really cool.
Yes.
So then I was like, okay, let's do it. And then I was going to say in like lap 40, I was like, bro, why did I even get up for this? Because Max Verstappen was leading the race and he kind of drove away in the beginning.
Yeah, he was like 7-8 seconds ahead.
At some point, he was 9 seconds actually out. I do believe, I don't think McLaren at any point was really pressed about it. They seem to have always been like our last stint, and they said that also during the race. They had a fresh set of tires, mediums, available where Red Bull did not.
Yes.
So I guess the whole time they were like, okay, in our last stint, that's when Lando will put down the hammer.
Yes.
And he will, try to, catch him. And last weekend it was a little bit too late. Lando needed I would say maybe 2 more laps in order to catch Max, but this time around he did not.
Yes. However, the mess, I don't know what happened today to Red Bull. They had, we did two pit stops. Most people did 2 pit stops.
Actually, that's true, yeah.
And then the second pit stop for both Perez and Max, something went wrong. So for Max, it was the left back tire. There was they couldn't get it off, so it took a minute. So then his pit stop was 6.5 seconds.
Yeah.
And McLaren had an average, decent pit stop. So that already shaved off about 4 seconds of the time. So Lando was closer.
You know what? Actually, maybe if it wasn't for that, maybe he wouldn't been able to catch him.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Actually, yeah, now
I don't think so. I think that definitely helped
tremendously.
But then, there was bonkers. I think there was the last 20 laps or so. It was them then going at it.
Well, so 20 laps, this is when Lando started putting on the pressure, and then I would say going into the last 10 laps.
Yes.
That's when they really started to battle, and this is also where we quote unquote were able to see the old Verstappen, because let's be real, the last 3 years he didn't really have to do any of the fighting for P1 because he was never threatened.
No, because he was always ahead of multiple seconds.
And now then we saw him back to his very, very aggressive old self.
Yeah.
He also did some moving on the braking and stuff like that. Of course, Lando complaining on the radio. Max also complaining about Lando on the radio.
And Lando also didn't take it easy. Obviously, he was hungry because like you had mentioned, he wanted the win last week. So he was extra hungry this week that he really wanted it. And he saw it. He was right there. He was in DRS. He had several opportunities to pass, but then, of course, Max did the moving under braking. At least that's what Lando said. And also, you could see it, some of the moments.
And then the commentators also kind of agreed with that.
Yes.
That he was making moves that were not okay.
Yeah.
I think, and then it was the first, what is it, hair needle corner or turn of the lap where I think it was with 3 or 4 laps to go, and they both got together. Max kind of moved towards the left, and he ended up hitting Lando.
Yes.
And however, that ended up puncturing Max's tire, and then he was still being pretty aggressive afterwards, because then Lando, I think, was trying to move around him and make that move and pass him. But then he was kind of pushing Lando off the track. And then at some point along the way, and they didn't show it in the replay, so we'll have to watch that later. Lando picked up a puncture himself. I don't know if he also damaged his front wing, because both of them went into the pits. They put the soft tires onto Verstappen, but Lando had to retire from the race. So he was actually the only race retirement we had.
Yes.
Which is also devastating because Lando is in the second position in the Drivers' Championship. And because he had to retire and Max ended in 5th, Max was still able to pick up points where Lando didn't get anything.
Yeah, it was such a bummer. Such a bummer. And Max also got a 10-second penalty for the incident with Lando. However, that didn't change his position because Nico Hülkenberg was...
I think it was 17
seconds behind. So it just really...
The only thing I just realized what I'm a little concerned is because they showed Lando the black and white flag for track leaving or track limits. So I don't know if he ended up actually, because he still had some moments where he left the track. So I don't know if retroactively he will get a penalty, which means it would be applied to his next race. So he might get a grid penalty. I don't know if that will still happen, but there was so much going on at the end that I don't think also like the commentators and whoever does like the overlays and stuff like that were able to catch up with that, because we ended up having a Mercedes on the top step.
I mean, unbelievable. Yeah, so Max and Lando, of course, Lando was out. Max lost several positions because he had to go into the pits and change his tire. And that pit stop was, I think, also a little bit longer.
It's like 3 seconds.
Yeah, so not as great as, or not Red Bull standard. So then we had, of course, Russell in the front. At first we had Sainz second, then we had Piastri. However, Piastri was able to pick off Sainz also in those last couple of rounds. So then the final result was George, then Oscar / Piastri, and then Carlos came in third, it was so nice to see those 3 cars on the podium.
And also those 3 drivers.
Of course, yes, of course. And it was, I for a quick moment, I thought maybe Piastri, show your Mercedes.
I mean, it is the right number for me, but it is technically the wrong jersey, but I don't have a Russell swag.
But I mean, if there would have been a little bit more time, Oscar might have been able to.
I think my Oscar would have definitely been able to catch the Mercedes just because the McLaren is so much faster.
Yes, it would it would have I would have said he would have needed
maybe another like 5 to 10 laps.
Yeah, I would have said closer to 10.
Yeah,
because overtakes there are only specific spots, and then if you overtake too early, like you had mentioned, the other driver still gets DRS, so it's a little tricky, I would say.
Yeah, the track has 3 DRS zones, and if you pass someone in DRS zone 2, they might be able to get DRS off of you going into, because then you have that hair needle turn, and then you hairpin needle. I don't know. There's a
Haarnadelkurve. That's how you say it in German.
I can't think of it right now. But essentially, we've seen it also actually happening in this race. Then they might be able to pick you back off going into that. So a lot of times the preferred thing is to just stay behind and then make that move in DRS zone 3.
Yes. So yeah, it was just really nice to see George. I mean, I know we hate on George sometimes a little bit.
We are pretty tough on him.
Yeah, because Hamilton is our favorite Mercedes driver.
Or one of our favorite drivers in general, or mine at least. I don't want to speak for you.
No, I agree. And I was nervous that he might make a mistake. But good thing was, luckily, that there was only, I think, 3 or 5 to 3 laps.
It was like 3 laps
at the end that he needed to just drive it clean, because Piastri was not close enough or in striking distance within that lap time. So as long as he stayed on the track and drove the same kind of pace that he was, he didn't have to push excessively or anything. We knew he had it in the bag. We even heard Toto on the radios like, George, you can win this. Like
he sounded frantic.
Yes, exactly. And it was just so nice to see him. He was
so smiling.
How do you say it? He was just smiling, like
from cheek to cheek
the whole time at the end during the podium ceremony and everything. And Fred Vasseur also came to hug him. They had a little moment. Yeah, because I mean it's a big thing. Mercedes.
I think Fred is also Mr. Popular.
I know.
Fred is Mr. Popular. If anyone is popular out of all, it's Fred and Zach.
Yes, 100%.
Even though technically Zach is not a team principal. He's the CEO. It is Andrea Stella.
Yeah.
I always forget.
Yes.
Because Zach takes up so much more presence.
But he also, you see him everywhere.
Yeah.
Not just in F1. You see him also in Indy. You see him in F1 Academy.
Yeah, you see him all over.
All over.
He's a hardcore racing committed CEO.
Yes, for sure.
I will also say something that I do feel a little bit bad now because I didn't realize that, or not something I had thought about, that Russell, this is his second win ever. So I mean, still he's making mistakes when he's under pressure, but it's also probably because he's hasn't been in that many pressure situations, and so maybe he still has to learn. But it seems like other people are able to handle this much better, and also like even though he did pick up a penalty today, Hamilton is also like over his career has been very consistent in not making mistakes. He's not someone, so of course the standard that he has to live up to is much higher.
Yeah.
So I do feel a little bit bad, but it still stands that he has ruined several of his races and several of his podiums because of the mistakes he's made. But regardless of that, I'm very, very happy seeing him on the top step, seeing Mercedes on the top step. It's not something that I would have expected.
Not this season.
I know that they kept saying that, Canada, technically he could have won, but I just don't believe that. I just don't see how that could. I know that he made a bunch of mistakes in the Canada race, but I just don't see how he would have been able to beat both the McLaren and the Red Bull.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously we don't have the data that they have.
Yes.
But I do also think maybe the data shows always like maybe the perfect scenario. And I just don't think, I don't know. For me, I don't think that would have happened.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for him. I'm glad he did his little
pose thing.
his little pose at the end. And I'm sure, I know he's very much aware that the reason he won is because Max and Lando got into a kerfuffle. They watched in the cool down room, of course, the three guys on the podium watched it and they were giggling a little bit about it because they all benefited from it. And it's not something that happens, of course, all the time. It's something that you maybe a little bit hope for because it benefits you.
We might be able to see it more now because obviously Verstappen is known for being a very aggressive and hard driver. We don't know. I don't really know how Lando is because Lando is now for the first time in a car and in maybe also experience-wise in a position where he will be battling more often for P1. So it is very interesting to see going forward, and hopefully, I don't want like double DNFs or like whatever all the time, but having more aggressive fights in the top.
Yes, that would be nice because the first the first 40 plus laps of the race were not quite as interesting. At the beginning, we had a little bit of a DRS train, but then that kind of dispersed, or like
there was really no DRS.
Yeah, there was some fighting as per usual between the Alpine guys. Ocon and Gasly. Oh my gosh, chef's kiss.
So they were battling back and forth.
Alonso was in front of them for a while.
Yeah, and then Alonso got picked off by Ocon, and then really, really beautifully also by Gasly. He kind of pounced on him. But then Ocon also, again, battling quite aggressively against Gasly. And then Gasly was able to pass him, and then he on the radio just said, ciao.
Ciao.
I was like, dude, that's so funny, and I love it.
That was hilarious. Good for him. What a troll.
I did also wanted to point out Charles actually ended up getting, I think it was just a racing incident. He ended up picking up front wing damage going into turn 1 from Piastri. Piastri wasn't at fault. Piastri went on the left side. Checo was on the right side of Leclerc, and then Leclerc was just kind of in the middle, and he didn't really have anywhere to go, so he hit the body of Piastri, and then he had to pit right away.
Yeah.
And then that kind of just really ruined his race. He ended up having 3 pit stops.
Yes.
He finished, I think, in 12.
No, 11.
11. Oh yeah, because of the DNF, and so he wasn't able to make it into the points.
They thought he would be able to make it into the points. They even said it over the radio that that's what they assume, and he was close.
If Max would have DNF'd, then he would have made it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he was close in position, but not close in time because there was quite a gap still between him and who was in 10th? Danny?
It was Gasly.
Gasly
was in 10th.
Which was also, it was so nice. Gasly got another point. Then we had Danny Ricciardo
in 9th.
And then also Hulkie came in 6th. He was able to hold his position
Checo
ahead
7th.
of Perez. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and he defended quite well against him.
Yes.
Which also, it's very interesting once again. I know that I think Checo said something that they obviously don't have the same car. I don't know how much I believe that because like he's battling for 6th position where Max at some point was 9 seconds up in the front.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know what's going on. We'll see if that's going to affect his future with Red Bull, depending on how much longer he will be fighting further down in the top 10. I mean, because we also barely saw any. I mean, not that we see Max on the TV very often because he drives his solo race often. Not as much this season, thankfully. I mean, it really has been such a interesting season for the most part.
This is not what I expected the season to be, especially after last year being such a bummer. Yeah. I literally was crying wolf at the beginning of the season. I was like, this is going to be lame, and next season is going to be lame. But the way the cars are looking, I'm hoping that the Ferraris are able to pull their shit together too, because if it wasn't for the situation in the front, the best Ferrari finish we would have been P5, which is not good.
Yeah.
Which is not good. Yes, it's top 5, but this is not where we want them to. No. Where I want the Ferraris to be, you know. I want the Ferraris to be on the front. I want them to consistently be on the podium, but I also want them to battle for P1. Like, I don't want them to get the scraps. You know?
Literally. I feel like that's how it's been feeling. They're getting a little bit more of the scraps.
And wouldn't it be exciting with Mercedes now finally figuring out their car, right?
Yes.
I still believe that I think to expect the Mercedes to be fighting for the top next weekend is very much wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Because once again, today, a lot of things went right. I mean, Russell would have finished in P3, which is awesome. But I think if we can get the Ferraris, the McLarens, the Red Bulls, and Mercedes all battling for podium,
that would be so fun.
Wouldn't that be so exciting? In that, okay, I'm gonna bring this up again because I want to make a whole video not about that specifically, but Jenson Button, right?
Yes.
I tell you, this is my favorite F1 fact of all time. Jenson Button is a drivers' world champion, right? He has won the Drivers' Championship, and he has won a total of 8 races in his F1 career. 8 races, and he's an
bonkers
F1 champion.
Yes.
Right? But that tells you, like, how fucking lit was it, you know?
That sounds like a really, really fun season.
Yeah, like there was a long time where we didn't really watch any F1.
Yes.
We watched a lot growing up, and then there was a long time we didn't, and now we're back into the sauce.
Yes.
And I'm really glad for it.
Yes, yes.
But, this is not to hate on Jenson. This is an insane fact that it's like you became drivers champion with 8 wins under your belt.
Yes,
that is awesome.
That's bonkers. Let us know in the comments below if you have been a long-term F1 fan, if you have a favorite F1 season that you remember, because I would be curious, especially for the gap that we didn't watch.
Maybe we'll go back and watch it.
Exactly. So let us know if you have a favorite season. Also, if you have a favorite winner, maybe. But yeah, I mean, I'm still very excited for the season. I can't believe that we're not even halfway through yet. We're getting close to halfway through the season, but I'm looking forward to Silverstone next weekend.
Silverstone is 11 or Silverstone is 12?
I think Silverstone is 12, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so then after Silverstone, we're a halfway mark.
Yeah, so we'll see. And then we're getting to summer break pretty soon as well.
Yes.
And then we'll see if there's going to be any changes.
Because I'm sure a lot of upgrades are coming.
Well, I also meant driver changes, potentially.
I hope not, because Danny was able to pick up that point.
I know.
Or 2 points. I don't know how many.
And then we'll, of course, also see if they maybe make some more decisions moving forward.
Well, hopefully
next season.
Sainz is going to make his decision. I know that his dad recently really pleaded or pushed, like he needs to make a decision.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I understand it's a big decision.
Well, I think it's also maybe he doesn't want to commit to a 1-year contract.
Yeah.
Sorry. Maybe he doesn't want to do that 1 year. But like he just needs to get in a car, and I know that the options are not very...
The options are limited.
And it's also like he obviously wants to get in a car that's good.
Yeah, but his decision, his not decision is holding back opportunities for... I mean,
literally everyone else is kind of
because everybody's kind of waiting to see where he goes, and then...
They can commit to other drivers.
Exactly. Question is also how many rookies will be getting next season. Let us also know in the comments below if you have any theories. I mean, there's of course the question: is Antonelli going to join next season?
Oliver Berman.
Yeah.
And then
Jack Donahue.
And then we also have Liam Lawson, obviously.
Yeah, and I also heard recently that Kushmaini, the F2 driver, he also was testing for Alpine. And he's been driving really, really well in F2 also. So, I mean, I don't know if he's in contention quite yet for a seat.
I mean, if it's Alpine, I want Jack.
I do
over
want
anyone
Jack
else.
as well.
I want Jack. But I would love at least 2 rookies on the grid next year.
I agree.
2 rookies, and let's cut Lance Stroll.
He's already in it, so we can't cut him.
I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Thank you. Sorry, guys.
Cut it out.
But yeah, I think overall, and it ended up turning around and being a good race. I'm glad we got up
40
early.
Laps, and then it started getting, or first 50 laps.
I mean, I would say the first 10 laps were kind of interesting, and then there was a big chunk in the middle where it wasn't. And then towards the end, of course, it got crazy again. But yeah, I'm looking forward to next weekend.
Yes. Once again, let us know what you guys thought, who you're hoping, who will be in what car. I mean, this is a really fun speculation game at this point.
Yeah, exactly. It's really
no one knows. And then, as always, like and subscribe. And then we will be seeing you guys here tomorrow for another recap.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.